Ramen, you're lucky I can't pull you up right now on stream. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Boss Battle. There is no episode on the title, so I don't know what episode we're on, Ramen, but we are back for another episode of Boss Battle. Ramen, how you doing, man? It's been a minute.
Absolutely amazing. It's episode 420, just in case anybody was figuring it out.
Dude, with you, it's always episode 420. Let's be honest.
Hey.
We
I'm doing amazing, though. Glad to be back.
Yeah, for sure. We have our guest here, the Crafty Pie from Goblin Studios. How are you doing?
Hey guys, yeah, doing great. Thanks for having me on. I just want to say quickly, actually, I love your little intro video. That was really giving some inspiration for some enemies we could put in our game, actually.
Absolutely. There's going to be more visuals in this show, as we like to put visuals on this show. It's kind of an experimental show in a way, because we've done a little bit of different creative advertisements and intros and stuff. So we like to experiment on this show. It's pretty fun.
Fair enough. Looks good. Yeah.
See, we have somebody in the chat already. Beef Basted. I haven't seen that name in forever. What's up, Beef Basted? How you doing, man? Good to see you in chat. Let's see. He also subscribed with a Prime subscription. If you guys don't know, Twitch Prime is free. It doesn't cost you anything. You may have Twitch Prime right now. You could go check little crown on the screen, and you have a free sub you could give the show if you want to support the show. Really appreciate it if you do subscribe in the first place. We're going to go over the rules real quick on how this show works, and I'm going to pull up that video right now. So our guest has to have an A85 average above all the bosses across the board. Towards the end of each round, everyone will be voting on Twitch. There'll be a little poll in the chat. You're going to vote on how the guest is doing, A, B, C, or D, A being the best. And then there will be a cooldown period called the Slurpee Voltage round. And in this period, these questions will not be part of the polls. It's just going to be like your cooldown, rapid fire questions. So, the Crafty Pie, are you ready to play some boss battle?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's get a show on the road.
All righty. All right, question number one. Boss number one says, Smithy Dow began as a vision to complete the interoperable crafting layer of the metaverse. What sparked the original idea to focus on upgradable weapons across different games?
That is a good question. And actually, that question goes a little bit before my time on the project. So to give a little bit of context, a bit of backstory, we, as a studio, took over the project from the original team that built it. So the original team, when they were building out the project, they couldn't complete it to what they wanted, and then we came in and basically revived it and kept it going. But yeah, originally, so I actually, before I took over Project Pro, I was a participant on Smithy DAO. So I minted the free NFT, and I had my weapon NFTs. And yeah, I think the original idea was basically it was supposed to fit into this like decentralized Nintendo, which is part of Treasure DAO back in the day. So when Treasure was back in Arbitrum and they had their original like gaming vision, Smithy was one of the projects on there, and basically you were supposed to stake your weapons, earn resources on them, and then convert them into points. And it's basically like a metagame where you could earn points, and then you get like a leaderboard, and then depending on that, you get some payout from it. And one of the features that they wanted to do is they wanted to make it so that you could basically level up and you could change your weapons, right? And one of the visions that the original team had, and you know, a vision I still sort of share to this day. I think it's a very Web3 vision. I think we'll have to think a bit more tightly how we implement it. But actually, they wanted to make it so other games within the Treasure ecosystem could use these weapons in their games, basically. So you could like level them up in Smithy, and then you could see the effects of them in the other games as well.
So it's kind of like a broad range of different games that kind of work together. I've always like had a vision someday where like there's some layer of game where it's like you can take anything from that game and like play it in a different game. And I know that was like kind of like the narrative whenever Web3 gaming was started coming up a little bit. So like, has that vision really played out the way you guys seen it, or?
Not really, unfortunately. I think so, yeah, that vision's very like, trying to think the word for it. It's very like, yeah, as you said, like Web3 game. That's what it was made for, wasn't it? Right? These NFTs, you could just, you could pick them up and you can use them wherever. I think
Right.
sadly, it's not really worked out so far, and I think the trouble of that is, well, to give one pillar of one of the troubles. So when it comes to like game design, to say like with our game, if you upgrade the weapons and they get different abilities or stats or whatever it may be, right? We as developers will put in a certain cost to upgrade them, and then there'll be a benefit from that. And what we'll do is we'll play test and we'll refine that for our gameplay. So the problem is how do you fit that in with another game, a completely different game to yours, unless it's just purely cosmetic. Cosmetic's fine, right? But if you actually want it to have an effect on the gameplay, it's almost impossible to like test that unless your studios are working really close together and you've got a sort of similar project, right?
Right. Yeah, I think like maybe some game loops, or hey, I hate to say the word whitelist, but maybe if there was something you did in one game, you could be like whitelisted for something in another game, or maybe the level of difficulty in leveling could be like alleviated if you did something. I don't know. Just something food for thought for the chat there. The next question says Smith. I cannot say this. Smithonia. I don't know if I said that correctly.
Hey,
Okay. I can't say it. Smithonia merges Web 2 and Web 3 players in the same dark fantasy universe. How do you guys balance gameplay between NFT holders and free-to-play users?
That is an excellent question, and I'm going to be honest, it's one of the it's one of the sticking points we've had, and I think a lot of games are seeing this. So obviously, if you pick up an NFT, you're spending lots of money on that NFT. You want there to be good advantages of holding that, right? But if you've got a game, so like we've been building our FPS, if you've got a game like an FPS, how do you put it in that, so say like of our weapons, like if someone brought in a weapon they've been upgrading or that they've just bought or whatever, and you play an FPS, but then the free to play players don't have that, they can be at a disadvantage and they can hate it. Like you imagine if you're using like Call of Duty and someone came in with an assault rifle that did like plus 10 damage to whatever yours did, right? As a free player, you get really angry and you wouldn't play a game, so you just keep getting killed all the time. So I think a lot of like the benefits of the weapons in a game like the FPS would probably have to be cosmetic based, in all honesty, just because of the type of game that is. Now for our other game, the mining game, which is more like strategy focused resource management, I think it's a bit easier to put in benefits to hold these NFTs and level them up, because the gameplay is a lot more asynchronous and it sort of lends itself a little bit easier to put in those certain gameplay mechanics in, right? As opposed to something like an FPS or a MOBA or something, for instance.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense in that realm. FPS, like, I don't know, gamers are like always like, I don't know. There's two sides of this coin, because like I've met some gamers. It's like, let me spend everything and I get the full game. And then other people are like, if you're spending and getting an advantage, that's cheating. So it's like, how do you balance that? But I don't know. I don't have the answer, I guess. Let's move on to the next question. And it says, the project features multiple game modes from MOBA battles to card-based dungeon crawlers. Walk us through a typical player journey, what it looks like in Smithonia.
So this is another interesting, pretty tough question for me, because we've actually changed a bit about what we're building. So our grand vision is to build an MMORPG. That's our big vision, and I mean, to most people here, we probably understand that's a big undertaking, and to be honest, it's probably going to be a good 5 or so years until we have anything close to that, right? Especially with studio our size. Obviously, if you're a bigger studio, it's a bit different. So originally, we were building out a MOBA. And we were doing playtests. So I don't know if you guys did our pickaxe mint, or if some of your community of your listeners did the pickaxe mint, but basically we did a lot of MOBA playtests for that. And then we did our pickaxe mint for the mining game that we released. But the MOBA game had some issues with some of the foundations to it, the networking foundations. It was quite laggy and it was a bit difficult to sort of solve. Of which those problems we managed to fix in the FPS, but the networking is way tighter for that. Like, I can comfortably play with someone. So I'm based in the UK, but I can play with someone from Asia and even if I've got a ping of like 250, 300, I'm fine. The game's not as tight as you want it to be for FPS, but it's playable. Which if you play a game like Rocket League or something, you have ping of 200, it's impossible to play, right? So in terms of the actual player journey, currently what it will look like is we've got our mining game, which is live, and people will probably, it depends what your play style is like. Like if you prefer the more strategy, resource management, that sort of gameplay, you'd probably just stick at the mining game and you'd focus more on that. Whereas if you more enjoyed the FPS element side of things, then you'd play more of that, right? But our hope is actually we can build a few of these different game modes, put them within the wider IP, as we build up towards an MMO, and people, maybe they'll prefer one game mode over another, but they'll try out another, right? As part of the same IP, and then maybe some people might discover, if they favor FPSs, they might discover they actually want to play some of these like more strategy focused games, right? So that's the sort of hope, and that's what the player journey would look like, really. You'd probably pick one you favor, and then you'd come and try out the other ones, and then go from there.
I do have a follow-up question that you were speaking earlier, kind of like made me think about this. So on the application layer of the game itself, is the goal for you guys to have like this one game that has, might I say, like different game modes, and those are like literally like the different games you're describing? Or would you rather guys build like different applications that work together?
I think, that's a good question. On the application layer, so currently we've got it set, but it's different applications. So like we've got a site for our FPS test and we've got a different one for our mine testing. I think, it depends, because we're also building out some other stuff that uses like React as opposed to other ones that use Unity game engine. So normally we work in Unity game engine, but we've got some React apps being built as well. So it'll probably more look like different apps, to be honest. Originally I wanted it to all be in Unity and in one like homogenous project, if that makes sense. But I think realistically, for the different stuff we want to build, you'll probably be different apps that you basically click onto, depending on what you wanted to play.
All right, one more follow-up. Sorry, I'm giving you non-scripted questions, but if you want to have different applications, then would you guys consider creating like a launcher to have all those applications? Because what I'm getting at is like, I see a lot of times where communities in Web3, they don't even know they're part of other communities until you pull up and see like the connectivity. And so in gaming is very like isolated, but also connected, where it's like you have like a library of Battlefield games or a library of Call of Duty, and you have community that likes all those games, but then you have people that just played the one game and don't even know about the rest of the community. So that's what I'm just asking, like you guys trying to like connect everything together in that application layer.
No, that's a fantastic follow-up question. In terms of building our own launcher, so all our games are primarily built for WebGL, so for playing in browser. And the reason for that is because I think Web3 lends itself to browser-based games a bit better than people having to install like a launcher. I've always thought, I don't know, personal opinion, probably a hot take. I always think the launcher side of things for Web3 games is a bit odd because, people have to trust them to download like some application, which, people can like, steal the crypto that way, right? So it's not immediately on our timeline, but yeah, definitely when we do come to having these different apps out, we will think a lot about how we make the user experiences easy to find out about each other, right? And we want the community to not be fragmented. We want the community to be in one homogenous place for that. So yeah, that is going to be a design problem we are going to have to think about. But a launcher is not on our like immediate timeline.
For sure. And I heard Ramen said thank you. Ramen, if you want to chime in, please go ahead.
Yeah, for everybody out there that's currently watching, whether you're a gamer, consumer developer, or VC, I just want to say, and I think I speak for 99.999% of Web3, we don't need another launcher. we don't need it. It's not, no one's going to go, no one's going to use it. I've got 58 launchers that rob resources from me blind, tacking out my memory. And we just don't need it. That's it. That's all I want to say.
Fair enough. The more you know from Ramen. I do want to mention, everybody, the poll is live. So go to twitch.tv/TheCatalystOG. Go look at that top right-hand side of the page where the chat is, there is a poll. You guys can vote A, B, C, or D, A being the best. Remember, you guys are voting on how our guest is doing against each of these bosses. So answering the questions to the best of his ability. We're going to move on to the second to last question, and it says, living weapon NFTs evolve and gain power through actual gameplay rather than just trading based. Sorry, that's not part of the question. I just thought it was pretty based. How does this progression system work in practice?
So that's another good question. So this design's been changing quite a bit. And actually, I mean, to be real, we've sort of not given as much love to the NFT weapons as we should have, because, you know, the mining game, we released another collection for the pickaxes, which immediately have had utility and really work in the mining game. And then we've sort of been thinking, all right, well, how do we work in the weapons, and how do we make it so, you know, they have a utility where people can upgrade them? And actually, not just that, but the weapons, like, one thing I want to do with them is, and the same for pickaxes probably as well, I want them to be part of like your journey in the game. And what I mean by that is, like, I'd like on the metadata for there to be like markings of your history of playing the game, right? Which some of it would have utility, but some of it's just quite cool and be quite personal to you. Which, you know, if you think about how good NFTs are for building communities, that'd be something cool for people to show off within the community, right? So yeah, so in terms of how, you know, we're gonna sort out the NFT weapons, there's not a clear answer for that at the minute, and the game design's changing for it. But definitely, I want to find a way to integrate that, probably into the mines as well, and then give them some sort of way where you can upgrade them and they'll become part of your story basically in the game. That probably wasn't a great answer, but it's probably the best I can give at the minute.
Oh, I think lore building is very important with any type of franchise or entity IP. Like, why are we fighting? What's the point of it? Like, I think I don't want to make this about XRP or NFTs, but everything that's going on that blockchain is all lore based, and a lot of people, you know, become fans of lore, and so that's how you can kind of build up like the game's story or whatever, and that's, to me, is what's building in public. It's allowing people to build out the story within like the original idea. Want to say a quick shout out to Sir Sapient. What's going on, man? Good to see you in chat.
Yo.
Beef Basis says hi, sir. But yeah, I do think that lore is very important when it comes to games, because it's like I can play a video game and you know, be bad or be good at it, but if there's a story behind it and it's really compelling, I'm probably going to like want to revisit that story and like play through and all that stuff. So I like that approach.
I would like to just add one quick thing. So yeah, I mean, something I would like to do with the weapons is, like, if we have like I'm a big fan of doing like community-based events and like world bosses and stuff. And what I would love to do one day, I mean, this isn't on the roadmap for anyone getting hyped, but definitely something that's in my head that I would love to do is, like, if you have like a community boss or something, it's quite difficult and people participate to take down. I would love that to be marked on your NFT, like your weapons that you use to take part in that, so that, as you said, like, you're building that lore on your weapons, and like over time you can see what that weapon's been through, all the different battles it's been in, for instance. And then, you know, if one day you decide to trade it on or whatever, people will be able to see, oh, cool, you know, this weapon's been around for a couple of years, they took part in, you know, this event or whatever. You know, I think that would be really cool and be really rad. I
agree, and I want to like mention the thing where the dude that was playing Battlefield jumped out of a plane, shot a rocket, shot the plane with a rocket, and hopped back in a plane. That moment became inside the trailer for like Battlefield 2042. So like that kind of stuff that community makes, like when the game embraces it and makes it like official lore, that's really, really cool. Really like to see that.
Yeah. And can I chime in on this? Because that sounded really cool. Can you imagine if you had your weapon with like this hilt, kind of like, you know, like the Thanos glove, and every community event where you beat the boss, you get like whatever, you get to mint a gemstone, bam, and then put that in your hilt. So now the hilt has all these gemstones of, you know, and it could just be covered in gemstones, diamonds. People are like, yo, this guy's blinged out. He's been through a lot. Look at the hilt on the sword. So that could be something that's kind of, you know, cool. I think that would be a cool little story. But also on the other side, on the flip side, I don't personally care about lore if it's certain games, only if it's certain types of games. If I'm an FPS shooter or something like that, I just want to know about the weapons, what I got to use. I'm looking at stats and ratings. Don't want to dive into Call of Duty character backgrounds. I just want to clap. But this is important for this type of thing because this is like a realm, not just like a game, right? This is like
Right.
MOBA and character building, and this has like a progressive story that goes along with it. I just realized my lips weren't moving. Don't worry, folks. My lips in real life are actually moving. So I just want to put that out there. You don't have to call anybody.
Yeah,
so,
you're using Telecanoodle right now. I got you. Hey, Ramen, by the way, by the way, don't ever ask, can I chime in? You're the co-host. Of course you can chime in. Chime in when you need to, my friend.
I just trying to be, courteous.
Nah, no courteous. Just chime in. We're going to the last question of boss number 1. And it says, you've built partnerships like Castle Dow, where Smithonia weapons work across different games. What makes your weapons valuable beyond just your own ecosystem?
Yeah, that's another good question. Got Castle Dow, that's a reference from a while ago. I wonder whether you guys have found the docs of these questions. Yeah, because I think that was part of the original team as well. Yeah,
we have a good production team that puts up these questions.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, okay. It's a tough one. So yeah, in terms of where we have value outside the ecosystem. So I mean, currently we've got a couple. I'm a big believer in like cross collaboration partnerships, and I think actually it's a very Web3 thing that works really nicely. So actually, some of the value of holding our weapons is quite often if there's. So I think I'm trying to remember the name of it. There's like a Twitter, I think called Reply Guys. So like we've given them basically contracts for NFT weapons, so you get a boost on their airdrop if you take part in their like Twitter. I don't know what it's called. When you like tweet things, don't you tweet that sort of thing. So I think that's one way we try to give some value to those weapon holders. Basically, is try to look for partnerships where, as you said earlier, like you might try to like whitelist members that hold a collection. We'll try to do that for our weapons as well as the pickaxes and other things. So yeah, I think that's probably the main way outside of our own ecosystem that we're looking for to give value to those NFTs. Also, another thing is, I'd love to do more like cosmetic, like in other games. So I think that's one way you can collaborate easily without worrying about game design is cosmetics, because it doesn't influence any gameplay aspect, right? It's just how cool it looks. So definitely one thing I'd want to do in the future is actually other games out there. If you hold one of our NFTs or something, maybe you unlock a special smithy cosmetic to use in that other game, right? I'm definitely a big believer in that sort of stuff as well.
I'm glad that you said collaboration and cross-pollination, because even in this stage of the game, I've been here in Web3 gaming probably like 3 to 4 years now, and everybody was like, we got to work together. And then they kind of like stopped doing that. And it's like, dude, it's still early. Like we're still in like the crawl stage of Web3 games. Collaborate, cross-pollinate. Like there's not enough users. If you look at the Web3 gaming users as a whole compared to Web2, we're still growing. We still don't have like we're a little tadpole in a big pond, right? Of gamers. Yeah. And so we're still growing. Cross-pollination is the way to go. I totally agree with that. I want to shout out Baba. Good to see you in chat, Baba. Hope you're doing well.
Yo, Baba, let's go. My guy, always around. Good Web3 guy.
Right, Good guy. We're going to go into our special announcement because this boss is done. The votes have been tallied. We're going to show the results at the end on how you do, by the way, Crafty. I don't know if I ever say that in the rules, but at the end of the show, we're going to go over all the results. We're going to go into our special announcement, and I'm going to give the mic to Ramen.
It's my favorite time. I get to talk about my great badge. But you know what, Hano? You know what happened during that badge drop? I now know it is episode number 66. Yo, shout out our team for putting that thing on the actual cartridge. And thank you, folks. Appreciate y'all. So listen, go check this out. Go to LA. I get a little inspiration where we can, right? Episode 66. Make sure you hear that. But yeah, go download this badge. It's absolutely free, free 99. My favorite price, your favorite price, and you want to collect these because soon, my friends, soon, these cartridges that everyone's been collecting through all these shows is one day, one sweet day, gonna have some amazing utility with inside. That's not even a freaking word. Here I am going, wow. It's gonna be inside the Catalyst ecosystem, and you're gonna be glad you minted these free gasless badges over there. So do that because, Smithonia, getting hot on the microphonia, wants you to go collect this forever in time.
MC Ramen, I love it. Keep going.
I don't know where it came from, but I'm ready.
By the way, shout outs to our production team for putting all these, beautiful, beautiful cartridge badges, giveaways, whatever. Because we just have like so many of them, dude. So many. We should have 66 of
history.
them.
That's lore right here. You know that? That's our lore.
That is our lore. You're right. That's exactly right.
That's our lore. Yeah.
We've gone full circle.
We have definitely gone full circle. Well, listen, the Crafty Pie. Are you ready, my friend? Because these questions aren't going to be cake.
I don't think I'm ready. Because was that the first boss? That's the easiest one, wasn't it?
Usually.
Yes. But both questions would go from some DOMs I've not seen in many years. That's from the old project. So I've got no idea what to expect in the second round.
All right, that's good. Sorry, Hato, I saw you rolling your eyes and
I just remembered that I'm back on this show, so I have to listen to all these puns, I have to listen to all these freaking puns.
Dad jokes and terrible ones at that, too. And that's why I'm not a comedian. So, yeah. Anyway. All right. Boss number 2. Here we go. I love the timing. It gets better every single time. Like,
I just heard a breath where you like, and then you press the button.
You can tell I'm laughing hard because my eyes disappear.
Sorry. Go ahead, Robin. Go ahead. Sorry, you're doing a great job.
Hold on. Let me get my noodles in order. Hold on. Let me shake this one off really quick. All right. I'm good to go. All right. Boss number 2. Smithonia operates within the Treasure DAO ecosystem using magic tokens. How do you maintain your project's identity while being part of a larger platform?
Okay, this is going to be an easy one to answer because we're not actually part of Treasure anymore. So yeah, as you guys know, Treasure Treasure stopped doing their gaming stuff a few months ago, didn't they? I think that was like April. So we were part of them, and we were going to migrate over to REK'T when they were building their own chain over there. But then I can't go into much detail, but yeah, some stuff happened with them, and then we're sort of on our own now. So what I can probably say is, in terms of maintaining our own identity, if we were to join another large organization, I think it's just about trying to keep a strong IP brand value, of our own. Just put out good content, make sure that people love it, and hopefully they'll see us as quality builders within a larger ecosystem, right? And as we mentioned earlier about the whole lore side of things, if you put out quality games from good gameplay, good art, all the rest of it, people will then start to get be interested in your story, the lore, the whole thing you're building, and then you'll start to get a really strong identity outside of whoever else you're sort of working with, right? So I think that's probably the best way that we'll try and do that.
Okay, all I really heard is something about larger ecosystem. If you've watched some of our previous shows, we've been known that people like to drop alpha. Can we get a little hint of where everybody's going to go and not just having users in this chain purgatory? No pressure.
Oh, for me, well, yeah, funny. So yeah, but I can't drop anything exactly at the minute, but we are. So obviously, one thing with Smithy is we were, in this sort of chain purgatory like limbo after the whole treasure thing. We are still talking to chains, and we are making some advancements on that, I should say. I haven't got anything concrete set at the minute, but we are definitely still talking to the chains. And I think some of our community would quite like to hear that as well, because, I'm personally keeping things quiet until we've got something a bit more concrete in place, but we are making some progress there. So I can't drop any alpha today, but there will be some, hopefully very soon.
That's all right, Crafty. Listen, closed mouths don't get fed. I have to at least get out there and put an ask out there. You just, it's just like the thing that we do.
Hey, it was a good effort. It was a good try.
It was a good. I gotta put in. I gotta put in a little A for effort there.
Hey, man, it's fine. It's completely acceptable.
All right, perfect. I'll come up with a funny joke for that one later. But I'm gonna move on to question number 2. Your community emphasizes craftsmanship and weapon forging over typical Web3 trading mechanics. How has this approach affected player retention and engagement?
So I think, yeah, so despite all the stuff over the past year and the sort of problems we've had, as I mentioned earlier about the whole treasure stuff and, you know, us having to find this new chain, all that stuff, actually, I think people's, like the fact that our NFTs, so especially the pickaxes, the fact that they have utility and, you know, people can use them and, you know, we're very open to our community about we want to change the contracts, we're putting some upgrade mechanics in there and all the stuff I mentioned earlier about some of the law aspects as well. I think that actually helps with player retention. People get quite attached to their NFTs if they're using them and if, you know, they're putting a lot of effort and time into them. Whereas, you know, if you just buy something to trade, you don't get that same sort of emotional attachment. And I think actually that's an interesting experiment for Web3 gaming, you know, compared to traditional gaming, right? Because with traditional gaming, other than say CS:GO, which I know has got quite an active trading community there, you know, people aren't putting that same attachment to things, you know, items they're buying to use in the games, right? So I think that's something definitely interesting for Web3 gaming, like how will that impact the retention as opposed to like normal gaming? And it's still an experiment that I'm waiting to see the results of. So
Yo, you gotta post that shit on the timeline, hype it up, engagement. That's what you gotta do to get people. Because you know what happens with the CS:GO skins? People make a post about it, Dexerto or whatever. Someone traded this skin for $500,000. What does that do to all the degenerates out there? No offense to degenerate, I'm a degen as well. They're like, oh shit, I gotta play some CS:GO real quick. Then they realize I suck at the game. Let me just trade the skins.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. People love it when you have like big numbers like this. Like I swear sometimes I see the same, like whenever there's like a little bull run or something, I see the same picture of the ether rock. Ether rock, is that what it's called? I forgot the picture of a rock, the JPEG, like the first NFT on ETH, whatever. You know, and they say, oh, this is traded for like 55 ETH or something, you know, like 200K. And it always comes up, and I feel like that always, you know, it always twitches something in my brain that I should go trade some NFTs. It always twitches something. Yeah.
Gambling. It's a hell of a drug.
It is.
Oh, wow. All right. We're going to move on. Question number 3. The game. Oh, my head. Make sure my head doesn't fall off. Glitching. Got to move the microphone. The game has been in development since 2022 with multiple phases and mini games released. What's been your biggest challenge in maintaining momentum across such a long development cycle?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so we took over in 2023, maybe 2 years ago now for us. Yeah, so 2023 we took over from the original team. I think the biggest challenge for us since then has just been like we are a really small studio. We're 4 people. It's me, my co-founder. He's like a full stack dev. We've got another dev and we've got our artist. And I think the challenge is like trying to put out great quality work of the scope we want to on such a small team, because we've never had any big VC investment. We've literally got 0 investors. All we've built, our live games, everything has been entirely grant funded and from revenues we've earned from doing things like contract work, you know, like building other people's games and stuff. So I think that's the biggest challenge for us, is every dollar we spend has to be spent incredibly wisely, and we've become very good at spending basically to get the maximum out of each dollar investment. You know, because I think with some other teams, if you do like a bigger NFT raise or something, you know, you can have a little bit of flexibility there with how you spend your money. But with us, it's incredibly tight everything we do, and I think part of our development would be easier if we had like a little bit of flexibility to, you know, hire some additional art help or maybe get, say, someone who's a bit more familiar with like UI development, for instance.
Yeah, that's fair. But, hey, shout out indie teams out there, though, because there's really no other teams that are out there. I feel like some games are absolutely soulless, right? Like, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, I mean, there's a certain level of passion, right, that comes with developers. And you see it. Like, if you ever go to traditional indie developer timeline, right? It's constant, like devlog post, art updates. Hey, what do you guys think about my wireframe? Check out this new animation and mechanic. Like, they're really, really in depth to it. And I think it's singularly focused because they're not thinking about like a whole ecosystem involved. So for you guys to be able to think about ecosystem and still bring that same passion, you got to give yourselves a pat on the back and an applause, because if it was easy, everybody would do it. But the fact that you've been at it for this long, I think, speaks volumes to what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish on chain, right? So I always say keep pushing, right? Go ahead, Hado.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, and that's our aim. Our aim is to put out great quality games. That's always been our aim. And like even the FPS is probably more game first, Web3 second, in all honesty, because our main mission is to put out games that are fun. Now, obviously, we want to use Web3 in a way that makes sense and experiment a little bit with it, like push the boundaries. But first and foremost, we just want to make a great piece of art, basically, and in that would be our game.
I do want to mention the poll is live for boss number 2. Go vote. Go vote. Do it.
Make sure you vote. I won't sing today. I promise. I'm not karaoke ready. All right, we got 2 more questions, boss number 2, and then we got a little something special, a little special, and then we're going to move on to the final boss. But you are, I guess this is where we talk about the transition from Magic, but you're transitioning from Magic, excuse me, to your own SGC token system. How do you ensure that this change doesn't disrupt the existing player economy?
So, I mean, to be fair, we don't actually use Magic in our, we never use Magic. Well, when we took over, we haven't used Magic in our like mining games, for instance. So we was always using SGC. SGC is just, Smithy Goldcoin, long form of it, is just our like currency that is currently just off chain for use within the game. So people can buy and sell resources and use that as a medium. So yeah, I mean, we've never had to change any of the actual transaction within the game itself and using Magic to this. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna make sure we don't take any more community questions. Sorry. Oh, all right. Last question. Community feedback shows excitement about the interoperable crafting concept, but questions remain about mainstream adoption. What evidence do you have that players want weapons that work across multiple games?
Well, that's a pretty tough question. So I don't really think we have much evidence other than what I've heard from like Web3 gamers, and like when probably this might just be the sort of small group that I interact with and talk to, right, and some other founders I talk to as well. But I think going back to like what we said during some of Boss One's questions, I think part of that Web3 gaming ethos is you do want to see some like collabs between games, where people can, even if it's just cosmetic, people want to see like a Smithy weapon skin appear in some other game that they like, and to be fair, it's probably not just a Web3 thing. I actually just thought about it. So I don't know if you guys saw Helldivers. They've put the ODST troopers from Halo in their game, right? So it's 2 sci-fi games. They probably have a similar audience, and people, I can't say how they're going to do, but that's a massive game. Selling some pack that uses Halo stuff. Obviously, they must have some inkling there that people want to see that, and I think you can probably extrapolate that and put that in Web3. I think I'd use that as my evidence, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that is evidence, right? I mean, you say I'm just talking, to the small community in which you have, but I mean, that's literally the evidence, right? I mean, you're the one, you're in the trenches, and you've got to talk. So, I mean, that is evidence. And of course, like later on down the road, right, when things get bigger in scale and you start launching this huge thing into 100,000, you're going to start using like analytics and metrics tracking stuff. But for right now, I think that's extremely important that you're actually taking your time to go talk to your player base. And I think that's part of the whole the passion thing, right? Like actually taking your time. It's the most valuable thing you have.
And I'll just say, I mean, to be honest, like I think that's what most indie devs do. I think sometimes like Web3 game developers think, I know I've got to be careful how I phrase this, but quite often you want everything needs to be tracked, like how many transactions are you doing, how many daily active users do you have and wallets and stuff like that, right? And a lot of focus is put on the data side of things, whereas actually I think some of the best data you can get is just speaking to people, right? And you can't get as broad a group, like statistically, you can't get as broad a group, but I think if you talk to your community, even if you just talk to 100, 200, 300 people, whatever, you're in your Discord, you partner people on X, in your Telegram, whatever it may be, you can build up a pretty good picture that way. And you can have very intimate, long depth conversations with people that way as well.
Listen, the secret sauce to all this madness is content and participation, engagement. The reason why I'm harping on this so much is because like I agree that it's really good to have conversations like these, because people that are outside that don't know what's going on, they listen to it and they be like, why aren't there games that I can bring my stuff across other games? And it's like, why do I have to be locked to one genre with the thing I just bought? Why don't I just play this and see if I can use this item and other stuff and like kind of work together with a community to play a game and build a game? Kind of, it's what it feels like. And you look at like games like Roblox and games that just build their worlds out over time. And really, what I see from those communities is the content they push out brings in people to like want to try stuff that they're curious about. So like even these type of conversations are content that people can consume and be like, wow, I never thought about this type of gaming before. Now I want to be, or now I'm interested. I want to be more involved. How do I get to it? They start pulling up to the events, the community events that you guys throw. So I just think that's the thing that people got to focus on, especially on the marketing side of things. You could talk about daily active users, daily wallets, all that stuff. That's fine. You can see how much spending power is there. But when it comes to gaming, at the sole heart of gaming is content. Whether you're purchasing it to play more content, whether you're purchasing to make content, or whether you're just consuming the content that makes you want to play the game in the first place, it's all about content to me. So just want to throw it out there.
Yeah, no. Preach, man. Be speaking truth.
Let's go. And that was it. That wraps it up for boss number 2.
All right, let's move on to actually we're gonna take a little quick ad break, little quick one, and then we'll hop into the lightning round.
Yo tengo un novio que mujeriego, me cojo todo y lo quiero comer. Y tengo un padre que se pastilla y se toca la cabaña con su mujer. Una mañana de su cartera me invitó a fumar weed. Cuando le la nota le dio la voz y estaba así.
I don't know why that video isn't full screen. I was just like taking a peek over here. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna act a fool.
Yo, that's a vibe though. Let's go.
Shout out to our production team. I'm not exactly sure who does all of it, but I know Sirsky and Damien have just been killing it with visuals and music. So they've always done a great job with it. But we're gonna move on to our lightning round.
It's time for the Slurpee Voltage round, sponsored by Slurpee Voltage. Feel the energy.
Now, these are going to be some quick, hard-hitting questions. I'm going to ask the first 5. Rama's going to take the next 5, and we'll just get through this real quickly. So, first question says, if you could forge any fictional weapon into Smithonia, living weapon, what would it be?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Crossbow. I love crossbows.
Absolutely.
Do I have a certain amount of time to answer these questions? Is it
you can answer a little longer if you want to, but like,
okay.
There's no time limit on like, the answering, but these are just like quick questions that don't pertain to the boss structure. Next question says, who on the team would win in an actual medieval smithing competition?
Me. Well, you said medieval smithing competition. I used to do medieval combat where I in a city I'm in. So like you dress up in armor, you have like a blunt weapon, you smack each other without swearing.
So it may not be the humble pie, but he's the crafty pie. Next question. Shill Smithonia in your best medieval blacksmith voice.
You want to come try our Dark Fantasy MMORPG? I don't know. That's my Smithonia voice.
Hey, that was good. That was good. Next one says, no worries. Next one says, what's the weirdest weapon upgrade combination a player has discovered?
Nothing at the minute, sadly, because we still have to build that feature out.
Okay, that is pending. Is Smithonia weapons worked in real life, which team member would be most dangerous?
Probably me. I gotta say me again. Just going back to my earlier answer. Me with the sword and battle axe. Definitely.
Fuck yeah, I love it. Let's go to the next 5 from Ramen.
That's right, in my medieval blacksmith voice. Complete this. No, I know it sounds like a crazy drunk player. Never mind. I don't even know what I'm doing over here. Complete this sentence. The highest misconception about dark fantasy gaming is
that it's just for nerds. I think dark fantasy gaming could be pretty cool and mainstream as well. There you go.
oh, all right. That's
Just gonna say
good.
it. Yeah.
It's a little bit for everybody. A little bit for everybody. Which team member is most likely to get lost in their own dungeon crawler?
Probably a big co-founder, Shadow. I think he'd get lost. He'd get lost very quickly.
Remember, you're in 4K right now. This is all recorded. All right, next question.
No, I know.
If you had to explain weapon interoperability to a 5-year-old, that's Web3, what would you say?
It's a weapon that you can use in many different games. Yeah, I think for a 5-year-old, we could get that.
Let me ask, what's up, Agent Zandy in the chat? Zandy,
No,
do you confirm? Did that make sense?
First time status.
Let's go. All right, no, that actually is, yeah,
A sword.
So
a sword.
A sword.
All right, next, 2 more questions. What's your team's most epic, we probably shouldn't have coded that moment?
I think when we got the first version of the mine out within like a month, and it's like I think for a normal team it would have taken a few months to get that out, or like truthfully speaking, but that was just pulling like 18-hour days pretty much for a month straight.
Oof, that's a long for a month straight. Damn.
Yeah, it was horrendous, and also like doing NFT min at the same time. I never really want to bring myself through that again.
Damn, that's like working around the clock. Damn.
Yeah.
As well, you literally have to install like portable movable grass inside your house just to touch grass and have it close to the desk, and then move it out the way when it's time to get back to work.
Well,
unless you got a backyard or front yard, you ain't touching grass.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thankfully I've got a touch screen. I put grass as my wallpaper. So.
Okay. This is the future. All right, last question. Lightning round.
Modern problems require modern solutions.
Truth. All right. Last question. Lightning round. If Smithonia got its own Netflix series, who would you want to play the lead Smithonian?
Lead Smithonian. I think Nicolas Cage, because I think he's completely crazy and wacky, and that would just be interesting. I honestly, I've got no idea what I'd expect from that, other than just seeing Nick Cage be crazy like he always is.
I don't think he turns down any roles these days, right? So it'd be good.
Exactly, yeah.
I wonder if Zoomers know who Nicolas Cage is, or if we're just old.
I think it's this old thing now.
Are we old?
Who?
Nah, come on.
Yeah.
Cage, come on. He's still popular, isn't he?
Zoomers in the chat. Agent Zanny, Nicolas Cage, LFG. Okay,
this might get me flamed, and I know I'm kind of clip farming here, but I always confuse him with Nickelback. I don't know why.
What?
No,
Nickelback Cage?
But that's understandable. I get that.
Oh,
like looks. I don't know.
Yeah. Him and Chad. What's he? Chad Kroger. That's the lead singer of. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's just forget about that moment like it's gone in 60 seconds.
Good one, Ramen. Good one.
Boomerism coming to a theater near you.
All right, that is going to do it for the lightning round. Thank you so much for all those great answers. We're going to transition into our last and final boss.
Okay.
But before we do that, if anyone has not retweeted the stream on X, please do so, or like the video, please. And thank you. So this boss used to be called the Twin-Headed Hydra, and now it evolves into a different boss, but we're still doing the Twin-Headed Hydra meta, which means I asked the first question, Ramen asked the next question. This is going to be the most difficult questions. It says 100% on my sheet, so it's supposed to be super hard.
Did you say twid? I'm just trying to make sure we can go back and capture that audio.
Did I say what?
Twid with the
Nope.
D? Twid-headed?
Nope.
Damn. Okay, I'll get you one day.
That might be a Bonix. Okay. All right. Tough crowd. All right. Question 1 says most Web3 games struggle with the cold start problem of needing NFT holders before having enough players. How did you solve this chicken and egg challenge?
So one issue we had with the mines was actually, so one of the issues we have with NFTs is when you give them like a finite supply, that's where the value of them comes from, right? And we did our pickaxe mint, and then about 2 or 3 days later, we opened the mines up. We actually wanted to open it up on the same day, but we opened up 2 or 3 days later because we wanted to push a fix out, so to speak. So we did ours at the same, but one of the issues we've had is basically, we've got a finite supply of pickaxes, but then that limits how many people can play your game because the pickaxes was essential for gameplay. So actually, one of the things we're looking at is how can we detach the gameplay. Pickaxes will still be important for the gameplay, but how can you make it a bit more accessible for players so that you can onboard a lot more people without necessarily needing that pickaxe, right? Without devaluing pickaxes and breaking the economy, right? By having too many free-to-play players. So I think I've never been a sort of person that wants to do like a big NFT mint and then like 4 months later then launch the game, because I just don't see. I know people give the NFT mint to raise, that's important, but to me, like if people are buying something to be used in the game, I think it should be used pretty quickly, like if possible. And that's just where I look at it.
Yeah, I also kind of look at it like if you give access through a game and there's only 1,000 NFTs, only 1,000 people can technically play the game, and you're limiting your reach. So I think like, again, we've talked about this a lot. I think something cosmetic or something in the game that basically gives you a feature that other people don't have that isn't going to break the game or give you like an advantage in combat or something, right? Like maybe like a home, right? Like cosmetic items for your home, like a couch, a chair, something like that. Or maybe you have like this lighting effect that your character has that others don't. Things like that, I think, is an easy cook, because I'm going to steal this from Clouds, the CEO of Catalyst. Gamers like to show off cool shit. And I think that's what people need to lean into when they think about these NFT mints. So just my opinion. I'm going to kick it over to go ahead if you want to add into that.
No, I was just saying, I completely agree. And we've, trust me, we've learned the hard way in terms of, having NFTs tied to gameplay itself. So that's definitely a lesson we're taking forward. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
For the, I think I'm lagging.
Lagging.
Robin, are you there?
Oh, he's talking, but we can't hear him again. Yo.
Hello?
I see his lips moving. I see
my mic moving.
I know.
I'm just trolling. Come on.
See, I didn't press the button, so I'm like, all right, Robin, you know what? Since you want to, talk, so take the next question. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question really quick.
Oh, now you want to do the Bonix joke? Now you want to do it?
I'm trying to follow up. You don't listen. So listen. Well, it also ties in with crafting MO. So you could maybe be crafting an axe to give you access to the community. All right. Your vision of becoming the crafting layer of the metaverse requires other games to integrate your weapons. What's your strategy for convincing developers to build around your NFTs?
Yeah, so that, as I said, that's going back to the original team as well. So, I mean, to expand that point, I don't think you can really, unless you're like one big studio. So say like you're like Bethesda. So let's use a traditional game example. If you're Bethesda and you wanted like Fallout, Skyrim, or the Elder Scrolls 6 and start with all of them to use one NFT, so to speak, then you could do it, right? But I think unless you own different IPs, I think it'd be very difficult to get everyone to use your NFTs basically, or like build around that, so to speak.
Yeah, it was in the earlier conversations a few years ago when I was talking. I forgot who it was. I think we had him on Boss Battles, but just having like Spaces conversations, and they're just talking about the developmental nightmare between developers and trying to get all this interoperability, which seemed grand at the time, but the layer of complexity with everything having to work with each other. I know that it was kind of wild. So yeah, it sounded great, I think, at the time, right? But I think just the amount of work that's needed to make it all work, it seems like it's really wild. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I'm just a box of noodles. So
it's very experimental back in the day, and it's very interesting concept, right? But I think just like speaking as a developer, it's just it's just not doable. And because also like what do other developers get out of using building their stuff around your NFT? What's the advantage to them to do that? Right? Obviously, there's a big advantage to you, but that isn't how business works. So
it seems somehow the value needs to be reciprocated. I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphonia back to Hato.
Do you say microphonia?
Yeah, I just said it.
Smithonia, microphonia. You can't stop rapping, bro. I see you.
It's a problem.
It's not a problem. It's a solution. Next question says the gaming industry is moving toward more traditional monetization while Web3 gaming faces skepticism. How do you position Smithonia for long-term sustainability regardless of the crypto market conditions?
So honestly, this is my thesis. I think the only way that Web3 gaming will really survive is by leaning more into risk to earn. So if you look at what blockchain is good for, it's a ledger, right? It's always been a ledger where you can look back at it and verify what's actually happened. And I think where Web3 gaming can differentiate itself from traditional gaming and actually grow in its own unique special niche is by leaning more into that risk to earn elements. So where you have things like randomized outcomes, I mean, you could say gambling as well there. That's where Web3 gaming would be a lot better than Web2 gaming, because basically, like, if you've got Web2 games that have all this happen on some centralized server that you can't verify what's happened, how do you know that the developers aren't screwing around, right? Whereas with a blockchain, if they say, hey, look, you can verify the results here, then you can check out, right? And I think that's where Web3 gaming needs to lean more into, and you're seeing more Web3 gaming go more that way, and I think it will only continue to go that way.
I do have an opinion on this. The Stop Killing Games movement that's been trending. I also think that Web3 can also help with that, with the decentralization of hosting servers. So if there's some kind of like protocol that gives people access to host their own servers for games, maybe in a blockchain type of way, you can't just basically rug pull a community like The Crew when Ubisoft shut down that game, which started the entire movement in the first place. So I do think there is, different use cases in different ways. But I do think that also what makes the most sense to me personally is MMOs, because there's already economies in those games. They're just not like trading with the US dollar, right? So I do think that MMOs also have a big use case. But I do agree with what you said for the most part. Let's kick it over. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say I'm completely on board with the Stop Killing Games movement as well, right? I think it's terrible that some developers out there like Ubisoft will build a game, but even the single player features need the service to be working. And they, when they shut down the servers, that's it. So like you spend, I don't know, $60 on a game, like a AAA game, and then suddenly a few years later it's worthless just because people stop playing it. But you've spent that money on it, right? I think there should always be the option to open source the servers. So if there's still a community, even if it's not valuable for the developers, there's still a community that can play amongst themselves, right? If they're willing to use the resources to host that server.
No, I think so. And I think even in Web3 gaming, we need to also take a look and see like who's hosting these servers and stuff. Because like these projects will shut down, and it's like, well, I mean, if you've built the sandbox layer of the game and people still want to play it or whatever, I think they have every right to do so, especially if they spent money on an NFT or something like that. I think like there should be some sort of like server side, I guess, cost for the end user, because then I look at it this way: you're putting some skin in the game to make sure that the game stays alive, and I think that's valuable. Outside of just like the cosmetics and stuff. I think that like making sure the game, I guess you could say like nodes or whatever. I think that's valuable to be like, okay, this is still functioning because of the community. It was led by the game developers and the studio, whatever, but like it's mostly functionable because of the community. And I'll even go a step further. Sometimes they'll put out a game and then the modders will fix issues with the game. Like, have you ever tried to play Skyrim on default on PC? That wasn't built for PC. That was built for console. And then these modders came out and they changed the whole UI and menu. And now it's like, I'm playing a PC game again. So I think like there needs to be a little bit of like, let's put the foot pedal on the gas for what we want to build in gaming for Web3, but there also needs to be more, dare I say, like a mod-like community effort for the servers, for items, features, whatever. Because I think I hate bringing up this example, but Roblox is the perfect example of a game economy where people are building assets, they're building levels, they're building characters, etc. And there's some sort of like economy in there. If that model works in Web 2, it sure as hell could work in Web 3, in my opinion. But anyways, kick it over to Robin for the next question.
All right, I'm trying to SGC something here. You're competing with established game studios that have larger budgets and no blockchain complexity. What's your sustainable competitive advantage in the broader gaming market?
So I think primarily there's two things. So one thing is we're a very small, scrappy team, and some of our community have described us as cockroaches because we just don't die. So you've seen so many Web3 game studios die over the past year, but we always find some way to scaffold more funds together, keep our burn rate super low of a studio, and therefore we can keep on building. So that's the first thing, is that we don't have the bloat these big studios have. Because, you know, when a studio raises like $20 million or something, how do you spend, you know, even half of that effectively, right? There's not, you know, you get a lot of bureaucracy in these big teams, and it leads to bloated costs, and a lot of that money gets wasted, right? And they have massive marketing budgets that, you know, they're in you know, where you're basically spending to get more of outreach, but then there's methods you can do, you know, through having a big community, with having good relationships with creators, that you can get some pretty good effects with as well. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is we put a lot of heart into what we build, and I think with gaming, like nowadays, a lot of people don't like the AAA stuff, and we've seen AAA games actually a lot of it starting to struggle. Not a lot of it starting to struggle, but some of these big, you know, releases are starting to struggle because people can tell that they're just, you know, these studios just want to value extract from them, to use a Web3 term. You know, they just want to put out something that's not really got much heart in it, charge $60, $80 for it or whatever, and then expect users to buy it. Whereas actually, you know, if you have a team like ours where we put a lot of heart into everything we build, like we want Smithy to be the best game out there, and we want it to be true to our vision, right? And then obviously, yeah, we want to get money out of it so that we can, you know, pay rent and like live life, you know, and grow. But we're not looking just to build something just to get as much money out of people as possible.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because I really think that, you know, kind of going forward, I think really the future is a lot of ending. You see the budget spend that some of these studios are spending to put a game out, right? And you're right. You ask yourselves, like, where is this money going? Like, what is it paying for? What's happening? And then you get the Pal Worlds, you know, they grab, you know, 7Ms and then create these like bangers too. So it's like, honestly, I see the future of this. I think it's right for indie studios right now too, especially with the pressure from the gaming community to create something that's worth all that money that they're trying to extract back from them for them to be able to go and play, right? So again, that's what
I was just going to say, so there's a game, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, that was built by so a double A team. It's like 20 people, whatever it was, and they put out something that is absolutely beautiful and of a quality that, you know, some studios with hundreds of people would put out. So how was that studio able to put that out of 20 people versus what some of these really big AAA studios are putting out, you know?
Well, I think you kind of nailed it though. Oh, go ahead.
They don't know how to budget and manage the funds. Because like if the funds is going purely to just marketing and not like game development, it's going to show. And it's going to show, obviously, right? Anyone that can pick up a game and see like, all right, I rolled and like the animation isn't full when I roll. It's like, I'm on the ground. Now I'm back on my feet. That's not a attention to detail. There's no fucking love behind the craft. You're just kind of mailing it in. And a lot of these projects could put that announcement 10 million rise in funding or whatever, and then you wait for like 2 years. Well, no, hold on. You wait for 2 years, and the game still is in the same state it was when they got that funding. So where is the money going? It's probably going to marketing. It's probably going to events, but it's not going to the game. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We're all in silence. We're like, damn, that really, it really hits. Though, but I mean,
sorry, I'm sorry that the gloves are off today, chat. The gloves are off today. I've had enough of this shit. I'm supporting people that are building real shit and real organic stuff. People want to pull up and support things. I'll support with you. That's where I'm at. But go ahead, Ron.
Before I pass the mic, let me ask you like a hypothetical. Like, what would you honestly think you would do if somebody dropped like 2 M's in your lap? What could you do with that? 2 M's is American slang for millions, just in case I didn't really think about that. Yeah.
Honestly, for a game our size, that'd be too much, to be honest. Like, I mean, I've been pretty open and transparent. Like, we're looking to try and get like somewhere probably up to 500k, right? Because I think would be the amount where over like a year we could spend it really wisely. And there's a couple other people who've been onto the team, but ultimately we'd still try to keep costs low and just we've identified the bottlenecks in our production. We know where we'll target. But honestly, like 2 million would just be like probably too much for what we need. It's just like, just speaking honestly, and I think that's the issue a lot of these teams get, is they raise that amount of money when they're building something that doesn't need that amount. Like they haven't even built an MVP, a minimum viable product yet, or like something to show off, a vertical slice. And they raise all this money and they don't know what to do with it, so to speak.
Facts. Yeah. Awesome. No, that's a great answer. I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm gonna pass the mic back to Hato. A couple more questions left on boss number 3. I literally can't hear you now.
You got me. See, I'm transparent too. If I fucked up, you know it. I'm not gonna be hiding from it. I messed up. You're right. I'm sorry. Looking ahead, success depends on multiple games adopting your weapon standards. What specific milestones would prove the interoperable crafting thesis is working?
So yes, sort of going back to my original answers. Yeah, that the whole getting other people to use our weapons probably isn't. So it isn't the plan at the minute. But in terms of like what I'd like to see, which probably isn't like a specific KPI or metric, is actually like if we grow our brand and our IP and our game identity to a size where, you start to see other popular games, first in Web3 and maybe some traditional games, like you start to see people, they want to include cosmetics based around our IP in their game. And then people actually want to use that. Like, I'd love to join, like, I don't know, some like RuneScape, let's say. I mean, this is completely like out there cloud thinking, but join like RuneScape and there's like a smithy weapon there or something. I'd be absolutely crazy because I grew up in that game, right? So, there's no specific KPI metric I put there, but just seeing that icon. Oh, right. So my headphone just fell. Seeing that item in those other games would be nice.
For sure. Let's go to our second to last question. If you guys haven't voted, I have bad news for you. Polls closed. So go ahead and ask the question, Ramen.
There's a second to last. I thought it was number 6. Aren't we on the last question?
No, this is the last question.
Oh, they just said second to last question.
I just asked the second to last question. You're on the last question.
Oh, okay. I was confused. Like I only printed out the last thing over there, so my bad.
Are you
all
good?
right? Just want to. Yeah. I do that. I'm noodles. So next question, and this is I want to make sure it's still relevant too, because I know this is an older acquisition, but it's an Animus Labs acquired Smithy DAO to further the vision. How does having professional development backing change your approach to building the metaverse crafting layer?
So Animus Labs, so that's who I originally worked for, and then my current co-founder, who was one of the founders of that, we basically branched off to build our own studio, and we're the ones working on Smithy now. I mean, in terms of like having the professional development side, my co-founder, he's got more than 10, 15 years, I think, even. I forget now. I worked with like full stack experience. He went to a proper like gaming. They did a proper gaming course at college, and he knows a lot about game development. Basically, having that sort of experience on the team is essential for if you're building games. And I think what a lot of people get wrong when they want to build a game or when they learn game development is they don't understand how difficult it is to make a good experience, and especially like a network multiplayer experience, and especially an experience that has blockchain in it as well. You're adding all these different layers of complexity on top, whereas having someone on the team that understands all of that, or at least has the knowledge to understand that. There's a lot of stuff he's had to learn, but he's just got the right frame of mind to learn it. That's absolutely invaluable. If that answers the question as a little bit,
I think it does. I mean, I think that there's layers to this. Clearly there's layers to this, and I don't think that someone that is like the best game designer is going to know the best setup for blockchain. So you got to find people that know what they're talking about and how to build on it. So I do agree with that. Yeah.
Well, we're always learning, and that's the other thing. Is like, I know in particular, I've been working full time this for a couple of years now, in Web3, so to speak, and we're always learning. There's always new stuff, and it's just like I mentioned earlier about games shifting more to like the risk to earn metric. That's only been going on really like for a few months this year, like building up steam, and you have to stay on top of stuff, because especially in this industry, every few months it changes. There's always something new that is cool and people are interested in, and you really have to stay on top of things, and you have to be open to learning new technologies, learning what new chains are doing differently, all sorts of stuff there.
Absolutely.
100. Well, that's going to wrap it up for boss number 3, Smithy getting gritty with all these bosses and questions. Hopefully everybody that's out there and watching had a chance to go and vote and collect that Rev badge. So I appreciate the time today, Mr. Crafty. All right, Otto.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We come to our favorite, or my favorite portion of the show, the results portion.
There we go.
On boss number 1, the Crafty 5 scored 100 out of 100.
Man, I love that.
Boss number 2, the Crafty 5 scored 100 out of 100 again.
There you go.
And just like his answers in the lightning round, where he would be the best for everything, he also got 100 out of 100 on boss 3, which means he has defeated all the bosses.
Wow, defeat all the bosses. Congratulations.
Ramen, tell our guests today what they won.
Well, Crafty, first off, congratulations at taking out all the 3 bosses and getting a perfect score. It's hard to come by these days, but you're going to be receiving something almost similar to what we've been offering to all the audience that's been coming over here, like the little Rev badge. But you're going to get a little something that's going to commemorate this moment by defeating the bosses, which will also have a little bit of a different utility, but it is going to be inside of the Catalyst ecosystem. So everyone that's been coming on our show, that's been collecting, what do we want to call these? Like, we call like a trophy? Have you ever come with like a word over there?
I mean, it's been trophies. Yeah, it's trophies.
Okay. Collecting these trophies and collecting these cartridges. One day you're going to be like, man, Catalyst just came out with this banger and we have been collecting this and now it's going to rain awesomeness. So that's what you won, my friend.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. I didn't even realize there's something to be won by coming on. So that's a nice surprise.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed today's show. Really loved the conversation. I thought it was pretty insightful. We all learned a little bit about Smithy and about Crafty. And that is going to wrap up today's show. If you are looking to be on the show, please DM the Catalyst account either through Telegram, X, whatever platforms we're on, because we're looking for more guests to come on the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give us a follow on Twitch or X or YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Let's go.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Peace.